Have you ever stayed in a house that just felt wrong? I mean the kind where the air feels heavier in certain rooms, and you find yourself locking doors for no reason. That's what happened to me last summer at a beach house rental in Ocean Point, Maine. I still don't have an explanation for everything, and part of me thinks I never will. But if you ever see a house listing with the words, Ocean View Retreat, Rustic Charm, avoid it. That's all I'll say. It was supposed to be a reunion trip. 4 of us from college, me, my girlfriend Sarah, and our friends Daniel and Morgan decided to split the cost of a remote beach house for a week. We wanted something quiet, with no neighbors, close enough to walk to the shore, and this place fit the bill. A wraparound porch, huge windows, a private path to the beach. But from the moment we pulled into the long dirt driveway and saw the gray peeling paint and dead trees surrounding it, I felt this weird pressure behind my eyes, like a migraine was coming on. Inside, the house had a musty, old book smell. It wasn't dirty, just untouched. The furniture was stiff and antique. There were heavy curtains on all the windows, and none of the clocks worked. The weirdest thing, though, was the door at the end of the upstairs hallway. It was painted black and had an old-fashioned keyhole but no knob. A brass plate was nailed across it with the words, "Do not enter." At first, we joked about it. "Maybe that's where they hide the bodies," Daniel said, laughing. Sarah didn't laugh. She said it gave her a headache just standing near it. We shrugged it off and chose our rooms. I made a note to ask the host about it, but the cell reception was terrible, and the house didn't have Wi-Fi. Isolation was part of the charm, right? The first night was uneventful, but I kept waking up to what I thought was someone walking down the upstairs hallway. Heavy, slow steps. I assumed it was Daniel getting up to use the bathroom. The next morning, he swore he never left his room. Morgan said the same. I didn't want to sound paranoid, so I let it go. But I did notice something strange. There was sand on the hallway floor, just a small trail of it, leading from the direction of the black door. By the third night, things escalated. Sarah woke me up around 2 a.m., whispering that someone was outside our door. We listened, soft breathing. Right on the other side. I got up, flung the door open and found nothing. No one, but the hallway was ice cold, and that trail of sand was there again. Only this time, it looked like bare footprints, as if someone had walked in from the beach, but only halfway. They stopped a few feet from our door, then vanished. I tried the locked door the next morning, tapped on it, pressed my ear to it. Nothing. But I had this overwhelming urge to open it, like it was calling to me. I even looked for a screwdriver in the kitchen to pry it off the hinges. I stopped myself when I caught my reflection in the window, sweaty, pale, eyes wide. I looked sick. That night, all 4 of us heard it. A loud banging from behind the black door. It sounded like fists slamming against the wood, frantic, panicked. Sarah screamed. We all rushed to the hallway, and as we stood in the dark, frozen, the banging just stopped. Daniel shone his phone flashlight at the floor and gasped. There were wet footprints now. Not sandy wet, as if someone had walked in straight from the ocean. They led from the door, down the stairs, and vanished by the back entrance. The next day, Morgan wanted to leave. She was pale and shaking, and said she saw something through the attic window, a figure standing alone on the shore, just staring at the house. But the house was on a cliff. No path led directly from the beach up that side. It didn't make sense. We tried to call the host again, but still no signal. Even GPS wouldn't load. Daniel tried driving into town, but the road we came in on was blocked by a huge fallen tree. On the 5th night, I woke up to water dripping. The carpet by our bed was soaked. I followed the trail water leading out into the hall again toward the black door, and this time it was open. Just slightly ajar, enough to see darkness beyond it. I don't know what came over me, but I started walking toward it. I didn't hear Sarah behind me. I didn't hear anything at all. I just kept walking. Inside was a narrow staircase, descending into what looked like a cellar. But the smell, it was salt water and rot. I don't remember what I saw at the bottom. My mind won't let me recall it. Just eyes, I think, and something standing in ankle-deep seawater. something that wasn't human. Daniel found me at the top of the stairs, sitting on the floor, whispering something over and over. Sarah said. I kept repeating, "The tide's not in yet." We left that morning, packed in an hour, and drove the long way around through a service road Daniel found on a paper map. None of us spoke the whole drive home. A week later, I looked up the house online. The listing was gone. But in an archived forum thread, I found someone who'd stayed there in 2014. They mentioned the same locked door and hearing water in the walls at night. The thread ended with their last post. "I saw him last night, standing at the top of the stairs. I think the tide's coming in. Whatever's behind that door, it's not finished. And if you hear footsteps in the night while staying in some remote beach rental, don't open the door." Have you ever been somewhere so quiet, so isolated, that you started to hear things you were sure couldn't be real? That's what happened to me last summer at a beach house rental in Maine. I'm not talking about spooky sounds or creaky floors. I mean voices, footsteps, and eventually, something worse. It started when my girlfriend Jenna and I decided to take a week off work to get away from the city. She found this vintage beach house on a secluded stretch of coast, the kind of place with creaky wooden floors, salt-stained windows, and no Wi-Fi. It was beautiful in a rustic way, and just remote enough that we could hear the waves crashing from the bedroom. On the first day, everything was perfect. We swam, we barbecued, we watched the stars. But that night, as we settled into bed, I noticed a door in the hallway that was locked. Not just closed, locked with a thick, rusted padlock. I didn't think much of it. Old houses have locked closets all the time. Maybe it was just storage. But the next morning, I woke up to find that door slightly open. The padlock was hanging from the knob, still shut, but the door was cracked maybe 3 inches. Jenna swore she hadn't touched it. I figured maybe it wasn't shut tight the day before. I closed it, double-checked the lock, and went on with our day. That night is when things got weird. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of movement in the hallway. Not creaking, not wind, actual movement, like someone walking slowly, deliberately. I sat up and listened. The sound stopped, then a whisper. Low, breathy, and unintelligible, like someone murmuring through the wall. Jenna stirred beside me and asked if I was okay. I told her it was probably just the house settling, or maybe waves playing tricks on our ears. But I didn't believe it, and when I went to check the hallway again, the locked door was wide open. I grabbed the nearest flashlight and shined it inside. It was a storage room, dusty shelves, stacked boxes, an old mirror leaning against the wall, but on the floor was a pile of clothing, children's clothing, folded, clean, fresh, like someone had been there recently. I slammed the door shut and relocked it, now more shaken than I wanted to admit. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, Jenna said she'd heard a child's laugh around 4 a.m., but there were no neighbors for half a mile. No kids for miles, period. We were planning to leave a day early, but that night sealed it. At 3:17 a.m., we both woke up to our bedroom door opening slowly, creaking louder than anything I'd ever heard. I sat up, expecting to see someone, a burglar, maybe. But the hallway was pitch black. Then I saw it. A small shape standing in the darkness, just standing. I turned on the lamp beside the bed. In that split second of light, there was nothing there. But the locked door, again, open. And this time, the clothing on the floor was gone. We packed in a frenzy and left before the sun was up. On our way out, I noticed something carved into the doorframe of that room, something I'd missed before. It said, "Don't let her out." I never told the rental company what happened. I didn't want them thinking I was crazy. But I did look up the house later and found that in 1984, a little girl had vanished from that very property. Her body was never found, just her clothes, folded neatly in the attic. Story 3. The Guest. Have you ever stayed in a house that feels like someone else is still living there? I don't mean roommates or renters, I mean someone who shouldn't be there at all. Someone you never see, but you know they're watching. That's what happened to me when I stayed at my uncle's beach house in Delaware last July. It was supposed to be a relaxing solo getaway. My uncle had just passed, and the house was in probate, so no one had lived in it for over a year. He always kept the place in good shape, and since I was grieving and burned out from work, my aunt said I could use it for a week. I got there around noon, unpacked, and settled in. But the minute I stepped inside, it felt like walking into a room mid-conversation, like someone had just been there. The weirdest part? There was a single wine glass on the counter, still damp, not dusty, not forgotten. Like someone had rinsed it, maybe an hour earlier. I brushed it off as my aunt may be coming by and forgetting to mention it, but I still checked every room. All were empty, nothing out of place. That night, I kept hearing light footsteps upstairs. I was sleeping on the first floor, but I swear I could hear soft pacing. At first I assumed it was just the old house settling, but then I remembered. The upstairs hallway is carpeted. You don't hear footsteps on carpet like that. Not distinct ones. On the second night, I found something that made my blood run cold, an open jar of peanut butter on the kitchen table. The spoon was still stuck in it. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't even opened the pantry. I called my aunt immediately, thinking maybe she came by with one of her kids and forgot something. She swore she hadn't been there in over a year. I checked the locks, the windows, everything. Nothing was broken or unlocked. Still, I barely slept that night, clutching a fireplace poker in bed. Every creak or shift of the wind felt like a breath on the back of my neck. The next morning, the peanut butter was gone. Not thrown away, not back in the pantry. Gone, spoon and all. That's when I realized this wasn't a prank. I was sharing this house with someone who didn't want to be seen. On the fourth night, I set up a camera using my laptop, pointed at the kitchen. I turned off all the lights, left a glass of water on the table, and pretended to sleep. Around 2 a.m., I heard the faintest clink, glass touching glass. I stayed frozen in bed until morning. When I checked the footage the next day, my stomach dropped. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the water glass slid 2 inches to the left. No footsteps, no figure, just movement. Then, something worse. A dark smudge like a blurry, semi-transparent figure passed in front of the camera for one frame, not even a full second. I paused the video, zoomed in. The smudge looked vaguely like a person, tall, hunched, thin, but where the face should be, it was just blank. Like someone had erased it. I left that day, didn't even pack, just drove 3 hours back to my apartment. The next week, I got a call from my aunt. She sounded shaken. She'd gone to the house with a realtor. They were planning to sell it. But when they walked in, all the food in the pantry was gone. And on the kitchen table was the wine glass and the spoon. The realtor told her something strange too. The neighbors used to complain about my uncle renting the house to a strange man who never spoke and never left the house. But my uncle never rented it, never even put it on Airbnb. And no one could ever prove anyone had been there. They sold the house 3 weeks later. I never went back. But sometimes late at night I swear I hear those soft carpeted footsteps pacing above me. Have you ever walked out onto a beach during low tide and felt like you were trespassing? Like the ocean had pulled back just enough to expose something it didn't want you to see? That's exactly how it felt the day I found the trapdoor under the sand. This happened last summer when my girlfriend and I rented a beachfront cottage in Maine. It was small, quiet, and cheap. Too cheap, really. But the listing said it was a last-minute cancellation, and we were desperate for a break. The place sat right on the edge of the water. When the tide came in, the waves kissed the front steps. When it went out, it revealed a wide, smooth stretch of sand, pockmarked with old rocks and seaweed. On our third night, I went for a solo walk around 2 a.m. The moon was bright, and the beach was empty, no wind, no sound, just the soft crunch of sand under my feet. That's when I noticed a rectangle near the bluff, about 5 feet long and 3 feet wide. It wasn't natural. The outline was too perfect. I brushed away some of the sand and realized it was a wooden door, old and rotting, with a rusted iron handle sunk deep into the grain. No hinges, no sign it had been used in years, but when I pulled on it, it creaked open like it had just been oiled. Inside was a set of stone stairs descending into pitch black. Now, any sane person would have closed the thing and walked away. But I'm not that smart when curiosity takes over. I used my phone's flashlight and started down the steps. Maybe 10 feet down, I found a tunnel damp, carved from rock, and just tall enough to crouch in. It smelled like salt and old wood. At the end of the tunnel was a room, not big, just a circle carved into the rock with wooden beams propping up the ceiling. And in the center was something that made me freeze. A chair. Just a single wooden chair, facing the wall, with rope tied neatly at its legs and arms, and next to it, a bucket full of teeth. I swear I stopped breathing. Human teeth. Dozens of them. Some yellowed, some bloody, some small like they belonged to a child. I stumbled back, hitting the wall, and that's when I noticed something else, tally marks. Hundreds of them, carved into the rock, circling the entire chamber like someone had been counting days, victims. I bolted out of the tunnel, slammed the door shut, and ran back to the cottage. I didn't sleep, just sat at the kitchen table until the sun rose, heart pounding. I told my girlfriend everything. She didn't believe me until we went back that afternoon during low tide. But the door was gone, covered. Like the ocean had pulled the sand right back over it. I dug for over an hour, nothing. No outline, no handle, just smooth, wet sand. I even came back the next night at the exact same time. Still nothing. It was like the tide had swallowed the whole thing. The rest of our stay was tense. I kept hearing weird sounds at night, like distant humming or dragging. Once, I swear I saw someone standing on the beach at 3 a.m. just watching the house. But when I blinked, they were gone. After we left, I tried researching the area. Turns out, there were rumors, old fisherman tales about smugglers using underground tunnels beneath the shore back in the 1800s. But one story stuck out. A local man in the 1960s who disappeared for weeks, then reappeared mute and shaking. He claimed he was taken at low tide by the man with the bucket of teeth. I don't know if what I found was part of that legend or something worse. All I know is, I'll never walk on a beach at night again, especially not during low tide. Have you ever rented a beach house and felt like someone else was still living there? Like no matter how many windows you opened, the place still held its breath? That's how it felt when my friends and I stayed at this rental near Outer Banks, North Carolina. There were 4 of us, me, Eric, Jenna, and Chris, just out of college and ready for a week of sun, drinks, and dumb beach memories. The house was an old 2-story cottage perched right on a private strip of sand. Perfect views, faded nautical decor, and a weird smell like seaweed and mothballs. But we didn't care. We'd paid for it in full and weren't about to waste a second. On the first day, we noticed something strange. A locked room at the back of the house. Solid oak door, padlocked shut, with a "Do Not Enter Owner's Storage" sign nailed above it. Weird, but we figured it was where the owners kept personal stuff. Still, Chris tried the handle more than once. Just to see, he said. That night, I couldn't sleep. The waves were louder than they should have been with the windows closed. I also kept hearing something creaking. At first, I thought it was just the old house settling, but it was rhythmic like footsteps upstairs. Problem was, we were all on the 2nd floor. And the locked room? It was directly beneath us. The next morning, I brought it up. Eric joked that the owner was probably sleeping in there. Jenna didn't laugh. I had a dream, she said, that someone was whispering under the floor. Chris went downstairs and knocked on the door. No response. So he left a beer can on the floor outside it like a prank. It was gone the next time we checked. On the 3rd night, Jenna woke us up screaming. She swore she saw someone standing in the hallway. A man. Tall, wet-looking, just standing still and breathing. Chris said she probably dreamed it. I wasn't so sure. I'd heard something too, a faint dragging sound across the floor. We decided to leave the house the next morning and hang out in town. When we came back that night, the front door was unlocked. None of us had done it. Inside, nothing was missing, but something was off. Our beach towels were moved. A wet footprint led from the back door into the hallway and stopped in front of the locked unit. We called the rental agency. They brushed it off, saying it was probably the cleaning crew. At 2 a.m., and besides, that footprint wasn't from one of us. It was huge, way bigger than any of ours. I measured it with my hand. The toes were oddly long, deformed. That night, we pushed the living room couch against the locked door. Chris even wedged a chair under the handle. We tried to laugh it off. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to a sharp bang. The chair had been knocked over. The couch had moved a few inches. And the lock? Still on, but now slightly twisted, like someone had been yanking on it from the other side. Eric had enough. He wanted to leave. But the next morning, our car batteries were dead. All 3 vehicles. We hadn't even parked close to the ocean, so salt spray wasn't the cause. It was like someone had drained them. The final night, we all slept in the same room upstairs with the door locked. Around 4:30 a.m., I heard whispering through the floor. Not voices, just one deep voice, repeating something over and over, like a chant. When I pressed my ear to the wood, it stopped. Then, a knock. From below. We left the next morning. We didn't even pack right, just threw bags in the trunks and took off once someone jumped us with cables. I never went back, but a month later I found a post about that house. A Reddit thread called Cursed Beach Rentals. Someone posted a photo of the exact same house and said, "If you find a padlocked room at the back, do not stay." My cousin disappeared from there in 1997.